The Shootist with John Wayne, Ron Howard, Lauren Bacall, James Stewart, and his last film, John Wayne, 1976. So the synopsis: a dying gunfighter spends his last days looking for a way to die with a maximum of pain, with a minimum of pain and a maximum of dignity. Yeah, got those reversed. But directed by Don Siegel. A pretty interesting career going all the way back to the 40s. But later in his career, he directed Dirty Harry, obviously with Eastwood, Escape from Alcatraz, and this, The Shootist. Coogan's Bluff. I've heard of that movie. I've never seen that. Coogan's Bluff. And he did the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1956. So, interesting director. Very interesting movie. So, John Wayne, he's a gunfighter. You know, he's getting old. He, in the very beginning of the movie, this guy tries to rob him. And you see he's got a bunch of money. And obviously he's not robbing John Wayne. And John Wayne, takes him down. Pretty good scene, actually, right away. Then he's riding into town. And he's going to get a checkup by James Stewart, who plays a doctor, who's an old friend of his. They talk a little bit about their past from the Wild West. You get the feeling maybe James Stewart has patched him up a few times. Maybe John Wayne has saved James Stewart's life a few times also. I like their back and forth, and he's getting a second opinion because he's been having this pain in his back. He said this really bad pain. And he wasn't sure if it was just back pain or what's going on. Another doctor told him he had cancer, or as they put in the movie, a cancer. You have a cancer. And James Stewart agrees and says, yeah, you have a cancer. And he says, is that what the doctor told you, the other one? And he says, yeah. So he says, basically, you have, a month or two to live. He said probably less than 2 months. And that pretty much sets up the movie. So interesting movie. Like I said, this is the last movie from John Wayne. I've never really watched a lot of his movies. I'm always, I'm more of a Clint Eastwood guy, but, maybe I'll go back and watch some. I mean, I've seen The Searchers. I like that. I've seen, oh man, what's that movie that they remade a few years ago? True Grit. I liked that. I actually liked that more than the remake, actually. So maybe I'll go back and watch that, but maybe watch a couple of his classics. But I haven't seen that many of his movies. But I saw a review of this movie, and it seemed kind of interesting, so I checked it out, and yeah, I definitely liked it. It's it's a slower movie. I wouldn't really say it's a Western. I mean, kind of. It's like the West, the very end of the West. Everything's changing. I think it's 1901. It's like January 1901, the very beginning, 1901. Queen Victoria has just died from England. So I thought that was a nice little touch to put in there. Right when he gets into town, he like a kid, says, buy a newspaper. Queen Victoria's just died. He buys it. He's kind of reading the newspaper throughout the movie. And, it's kind of the end of an era, kind of. And it's like the end of the West, pretty much. Or, really a few years before was kind of the last of the West. And he's in this town. and one of the guys has a car, or as they say, a horseless carriage, which I thought was a nice touch. Put that in there. You know, they have electrification, so you know you could tell this old cowboy didn't have any of this stuff. You know, in the 70s when he was in the Wild West. So all this is kind of maybe not new to him, but will be, is different for him. And he goes to, on the recommendation of James Stewart, like not an inn, but a place to stay for his last days at Lauren Bacall. She runs she has a few rooms to rent in her house to make some extra cash. She has a son who's Ron Howard, who's pretty good in this. He looks up to John Wayne's character a lot. Forget his name in the movie, but he's basically playing John Wayne. They even show in the very beginning of the movie some of his old movies, which is interesting. I guess they could get the rights to him, which is probably a mess, but I'm sure he had a lot of friends in Hollywood, to make this happen. I get the feeling that he had a lot to do with the writing of the movie, the background of the movie. So, because it's definitely a movie he chose to kind of end his career on, and yeah, I think it's a really interesting movie. If you haven't seen it, if you're a fan of westerns at all, it's kind of like the end of the West, like I said. So if you're a fan of John Wayne, or I love Clint Eastwood's westerns, but I found it really interesting how he's contemplating his life, what he's accomplished, what he hasn't accomplished, what he like the way people look at him. He's treated by he's very famous, but not in a good way, infamous, if you will. Like Ron Howard really looks up to him, really respects him, but kind of keeps talking about all the people he's killed. Lauren Bacall in the beginning, when he goes there, he won't tell her his name. Later, she finds out who he is. She doesn't want him to stay there. She asks him to leave, but then he's like, he basically says to her that he's dying. He's like, I'm not going to be any trouble. Like, I'm just here to spend my last days. And and then she kind of apologizes for being rude, as she says, I think being unchristian, and she has sympathy on him. Throughout the movie they kind of had a relationship, not really romantic, but like a little bit. And it's nice to see. It's a slower movie. It's not a bunch of gun action. There is some throughout the movie, but it's mainly just a story about him, Lauren Bacall, and Ron Howard, and James Stewart's in it a little bit, but it's mainly just them three. And like the sheriff comes and sees him when he finds out who he is. He says he would lock him up if he had any warrants out for him, which he doesn't. And the sheriff even is like, he's pretty mean to him. He's like, I'm looking forward to you dying, and I'm basically gonna piss on your grave. And and this in this really funny scene, this guy from the newspaper comes, and he's like, I want to write your story. And he's like, well, we'll make a bunch of money. He's like, when I wrote my article saying that you're in town, like all these newspapers wired my story to. And the guy's just kind of sleazy about it, and John Wayne doesn't respect that at all, and he just kicks him out. And then he when he's outside, he makes him bend over, and then he kicks him in the butt. It's a pretty funny scene. But yeah, it's an entertaining movie. It's a different kind of movie. It's definitely it's an enjoyable movie, I would have to say. Oh yeah, the Marshal is played by Harry Morgan. He's been in a bunch of stuff. Um, MASH, obviously. High Noon. Okay. So he has a lot of his old friends in the movie. He was in a movie with Lauren Bacall back in the day. James Stewart. I think he hadn't done a movie for like 5 or 6 years before this, and but John Wayne wanted him cast, and he did it kind of as a favor to John Wayne. So, but yeah, I'll get into spoilers. So spoilers now. Throughout the movie, like he meets some people that he's met before. He meets this guy that he killed his brother, so they kind of have a grudge. So there's different people that have some grudges against him, and some people kind of just want to kill him so that they say that they killed him. Later in the movie, these guys attack him, and he just guns them down. Like it's nothing. Like he may be dying of cancer, but he's still great with the gun. He's the shootist. And in the end, it's his birthday, and he celebrates it by going to the saloon, getting some whiskey, and just sitting there drinking it, and some guys pull a gun on him, which he knew would happen, and he guns like I think 3 of them down, and then they gun him, and then he guns them down, and then he's kind of walking away, and the bartender comes with a shotgun, he guns him down. Ron Howard then picks the gun up, guns the bartender down, kind of throws the gun away, with John Wayne looking on, kind of being like, I don't want that life. And John Wayne, earlier on says like, that isn't a good life to have. Like you should, you should do something else. Even though, he teaches him a little bit about how to shoot and stuff. Because as he says, he's like, well, every man, should know how to defend himself. So, but yeah, really, really good movie. I really liked it. I thought the direction was pretty good. I mean, it's a little slow, but that's all on purpose, and I thought it was well done. Let's see. Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 out of 4 stars. That's from January 1st, 1976. So, but yeah, like he says, the movie isn't a bit sentimental. Everybody in town wants the bastard dead, except for the widow Rogers and her son, Gillum. Even Doc Hostler, who knows what people can go through toward the end of these illnesses, stops Brooks at the door and advises him point blank not to wait around and see how things will eventually feel. The sheriff is almost cheerful at the prospect of Brooks, that's Wayne's character's name, approaching his end. The undertaker offers a free funeral, free tombstone, free casket, free flowers. Even 2 mourners thrown in at no extra charge. Brooks says, you aim to do to me what they did to John Wesley Hardin. Lay me out, parade every damn fool in the state, pass me at $1 and a head, half price for children, and then stuff me in a gunny sack and shovel me under. Still 8 days are enough to establish the beginning of human contact. The widow Rogers is appalled at first to have a killer as her paying guest, but an affection and respect grows between them. Her kid Gillum contrasts a case of hero worship, even while trying to swindle the shootist out of his horse. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I mean, he did that, though, because he was angry at John Wayne. Because they kind of were becoming, friends. And obviously, he's a father figure for Ron Howard in the movie. I mean, obviously, because she's a widower. Her husband died a few years earlier. She said he just keeled over and died. He had she said they think a stroke. So yeah, so he was kind of angry at him that he didn't tell him he had cancer and he's dying. And he was kind of taking care of his horse. It's like this really nice horse that's worth a bunch of money, and he offered it to the guy that's taking care of it, who I think was Scatman. Yeah, Scatman Crothers. So awesome cast, just you got Scatman Crothers in it also. Great actor. Yeah, and him and John Wayne have some nice scenes together. And yeah, but Ron Howard offered him the horse for like $100, even though later on John Wayne figures out that, and he actually is like, I'll give you the horse for 300. And Scatman doesn't want to do that, and he's like, look, I'll give you 300, and you can have my saddle too. So he's got this really nice horse, this nice saddle. But yeah, he offered it to like for $100, Ron Howard, kind of behind his back, but he was angry at him because, like I said. But anyways, and Wayne as Brooks occupies the substantial center of the film. He vows to read a newspaper through from front to back before he dies. He sends his Sundays go to meeting clothes out to the cleaners, and he challenges 3 old Carson City enemies to meet him in the saloon at 11 o'clock Monday morning. It's here that the movie doesn't quite work. We hardly know the 3 enemies. That's true. We don't know why they'd oblige the Shootist wish to die in a gunfight. We understand his reasoning, but not theirs. That's true. I mean, early you did see them in one of them in a shootout, but yeah. And the movie's final scene in which Gillum Rogers symbolically steps into the Shootist boots is just a little too neat to be real. Westerns probably have to end along these lines with confrontations and gunfires and heroism, but the Shootist will be remembered for the quieter scenes that came before. Yeah, that's true. The cast is excellent because it understands the material and sympathizes with it. James Stewart is a doctor. Lauren Bacall is the widow. Plays scenes with John Wayne that absolutely make us forget we're watching a movie. John Carradine has been an Undertaker. Gone old John Carradine has been Undertaker all of his life. Oh, is that the father of the other Carradines? Oh, finally, they cast him as one. Don Siegel's direction reveals a sensitivity we didn't suspect after films like Dirty Harry. And observe the way John Wayne says goodbye, Mrs. Rogers, to Lauren Bacall for the last time. But yeah, Roger Ebert can definitely put it in a very poetic way. And I definitely agree with that. Yeah, you remember the movie for the quieter scenes. But yeah, John Wayne apparently fell ill with influenza during production and was hospitalized for 2 weeks, during which time production was shut down. It was uncertain at one point whether the film would actually be completed because Wayne was so ill his doctors were close to forbidding him to finish. Lauren Bacall, James Stewart, Richard Boone, and John Carradine were all cast at John Wayne's request. So John Wayne liked working with Lauren Bacall in their first film that they were in together, Blood Alley, so much that he handpicked her as his leading lady for the film. And she's very good, definitely. And yeah, I've heard he died of cancer. So like I think he knew he had some cancer when he was doing this. John Wayne did a television public service announcement for the American Cancer Society. It began with a clip of the scene from this film in which the doctors tell Brooks he has cancer. John Wayne was suffering from heart problems during filming, the result of a severe bout of pneumonia in January 1974 that caused him to cough so violently that he damaged a heart valve. Wow. In the beginning, there's archival footage from Red River, Hondo, Rio Bravo, and El Dorado. John Wayne was irked by the disappointing box office of the film, which he blamed mostly on Paramount for poorly marketing it. He complained that Paramount spent too much time focused on the then-current King Kong epic and relied too heavily on Wayne's name brand alone to sell the film, which by 1976 was not a sure thing as in the years past after a couple of flops. He also felt it diluted any potential for his fine performance to be nominated for an Oscar, which after a few ads in Variety for consideration was quickly forgotten by the Academy. Yeah, that's too bad. I mean, he is good in it. I don't think he's not a great actor, but he's got charisma. So George C. Scott was originally offered the role of Brooks and accepted on condition that one word of the script be changed. However, the role was given to John Wayne after he expressed interest. The producers claim that they had wanted him all along, but did not believe he would be interested in the film. Despite receiving generally favorable reviews, the movie proved to be one of John Wayne's least successful films at the box office. Yeah, I looked it up. It says like it made 8 or 13 million. I think Box Office Mojo says 8. Wikipedia says 13, but yeah, I think that's about it though. But The Shootist, solid movie. Very interesting movie. Check it out. John Wayne, 1976. And like, comment, subscribe, and see you next time.